Here's a Mornings with Mike Winters fun fact. The first toilet being flushed in a motion picture was in the movie Psycho. Mike thought it was Gone with the Wind. Here's Mike Winters.
And good morning. It is 20 minutes after 8 o'clock, and joining us officially now here in official capacity is Superintendent for the Roswell Independent School District, Brian Luck, back with us. Good morning, sir.
Morning. How are you guys?
How you doing today?
Doing well.
Fortunately, he said he's prepared, but we're not going to talk Welcome Back Cotter trivia. That's another day, another time.
Next time.
So, but perfect segue.
Couldn't be even better.
He was like, just tell me. He goes, man, I'm a teacher. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Just joking. So, school board did meet last night. Are we kind of, like, is this time of year a little bit, is it like the calm before the storm for the school board a little bit here, or is it a pretty busy, because I know they're going to be talking budget and all that stuff here pretty quick. I didn't know if, like, February was kind of a bit of a lull for them as far as the workload goes, or am I off?
No, I think in a regular year, I mean, we did have an election, and so we swore our new board members in January, and then we took the liberty of maybe holding off on a couple things until last night. We had some pretty heavy duty informational items of no decision making, just
so played a little catch up,
a little bit along, just kind of let them catch their breath and get up to speed, and took the opportunity last night to do a little bit of I don't want to say educating, but just informing them where we are on some major issues and get
them on up to speed.
Yeah, let them kind of catch their breath and get going. And then yes, we're fixing to run into budget season. We're working with a company as far as helping us with our strategic plan so that we can be aligned and put that out to the public and get the public's input on that.
Sure.
So. I think you might have nailed it. I mean, maybe a little bit of the calm before the productive storm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you're right. It does give a chance. I mean, obviously the people that are newly elected to the school board, they're elected there for a reason, but they got to kind of get up to speed on how the board, how their working speed is, and how they're get used to the minutia of being on that board. And so they kind of got this last month or two here to get acclimated there, and so when we talk budget and talk some of these other big things here in the spring, they're kind of fully on board and ready to hit that ground and attack whatever they got to do there.
Yeah, and it was interesting. One of the documents that we gave them was a list of the acronyms that we use in education, and the first 6 pages of that list was pretty basic things that I knew, and it was, like I said, it was interesting to see a lot of that laid out, and we welcomed them last night with a nice 3.5-hour meeting. So I think we've got them where we need them.
Got them adjusted.
I think we're ready to go. We got work to do.
Well, if education is anything like the military in terms of acronyms.
I tell you what, there were a couple of them that I saw, and I was just like, so that's what that means. You've heard about them, and you've got a generalization that this goes here, kind of a deal. But there's so much that's come out recently, and you're just it can be a bit overwhelming at times. But no, I think, like I said, they're ready to go, and we're really going to do business.
And we're just in an age right now where, and this is globally, this ain't just Roswell, New Mexico, where we're kind of learning on the fly with everything when it comes to this stuff. It's now we got a year or two under our belt, so we're kind of getting more proficient at doing this. But we're still in that territory where there isn't really a playbook to go on here. We're kind of not saying making it up as we go, but certainly the tried and true of the past does not apply in our current state right now. So
and it's interesting that you look at it like that, because what I'm seeing is unfortunately, whether we want to admit it or agree with it or whatever, we do have a past with this now. And so when we're visiting with our teachers, we're working with you. You've got to separate from 10 years ago to 10 months ago now. From 10 months to here, that is a past. And you've done things, and there's things that work and things that didn't work, and methods that you've tried and methods that you haven't tried. So, reluctantly with some cases, we've had to bring some people through and say, well, not calling this normal by any means, but it's where we're at.
Right.
And it's conducting business within the parameters of some of the the boundaries that we know we have right now, and and in some ways it's got a little bit of a safety net to it, for lack of a better word. okay, here we are, and we know what that could look like, and
Sure.
and so let's go.
I'm just out of curiosity, since we're kind of talking COVID and everything. I mean, we're seeing nationally here a big push by protests and things of people against masks in schools and things. I'm just curious, are you guys seeing any kind of that kind of pushback from in our community here or outside of our community?
Could we talk Welcome Back, Cotter?
Just, I mean, you're seeing it nationally, and I'm sure there's people probably ringing your phone, saying the same thing.
And this is a huge credit to our community.
Yeah.
I've got a decent idea of the way, for the most part, the way our community would like to see things happen. They also recognize that we've got jobs to do, and right now they've kind of left us out of the middle of it.
Gotcha. Okay, good. And let me say, do you think?
I cannot begin to express how much we appreciate that. I mean, yes, there are other places that's kind of become front and center. I'm watching. Our health officials here at our school district is watching. And unfortunately, we're still just at the mercy of what is given to us from DOH to the public education department.
Well, it's a slippery slope, and what I mean by this, and you can ignore, not say a word about it because I know where your position at, but at the end of the day, I get you want to push back when things you don't think are right and all of that. I mean, that's America. That's what we do. But what's the risk versus the reward here when it comes to our kids? Now, this is school and kids we're talking about here, and I get it. You have problems with the masks and things like that, but do we blow up the whole thing, and now the kids aren't getting the proper leadership in schooling because we decided to fight in the fashion which we do? And it's like I get fighting, but you got to be careful the impact here on what could happen there, and whereas someone like me and even my wife or someone where we're not dealing with kids, we're willing to push that envelope and accept whatever repercussions come from that. But when you're fighting for your kids, and at the end of the day, the one that's going to get impacted greatest negatively from your actions is the children, you got to take a little more time to think it through. Just my opinion. And so I get you want to fight, but you don't want to destroy it. So you're actually, because we got one shot to get our kids educated. They age, and they're going to get to a point where they're going to miss that window. So you got to be. That's just my opinion. I mean, you can just tell me to shut up about this, but I kind of feel like that's where the rub is. No, I get fighting, and I'm all for fighting, but we don't want to destroy our kids' future because we went scorched earth on something we probably didn't have to do.
No, and I like you said, I'm not going to go either direction with that.
Yeah.
But I will say this: I come back to the town of Roswell and to the support that our parents have given us. And have voiced concerns, and some of them have been, fairly passionate with, but they've always up to this point been we get to that place of a respect for the job that we have to do and for the position that we are put upon, based off of who controls our funding is, and that's really what it comes down to.
I just think when it comes to our kids here, the best battle that you can do to fight for them is fight with your vote. That's what you're going to get some decisions to make here in the coming months. That's where you do your fighting when it comes to this kind of thing. Even the Floyd thing. I know we've heard some stuff, but I mean, at the end of the day, did that help with their cause? And I don't think it did. And anyway. I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but it's just my thoughts. So, let's talk a little bit about meat and potatoes from last night here. Some of the things that y'all covered that we want to that are worth letting the public know about here.
I'll tell you what. So it was we were packed full up at the top with a lot of informational items. We spent a little bit of time recognizing some of our teachers in our pre-K program. That we had quite a few of them that were. Had moved from associates into actual teachers. A lot of our teachers, that were working on different things over with Parkview and at other pre-K programs throughout our city.
Nice.
And it was just a neat opportunity. And if you're not real familiar with that, which I wasn't, again, as a secondary principal, I knew Parkview was over there, but I mean, we have a jewel in the state, not just in the community, but that services a population of kiddos that it's just amazing what they do over there. And I've Sally Green and Jody Alpers, the two that are in charge over there. Miss Green's the principal. Miss Alpers is is oversees all of the pre-K programs. What they do, and a kiddo can be 2 the day before, and on their 3rd birthday, if they qualify, they're at Parkview. And we had an incident not too long ago where we had a lockdown over there, and as we're getting ready to dismiss, my secondary brain kicks in, and I'm just like, well, let the kids go do that. And they're like, you can't do that here. It's a testimony to Mr. Gottlieb and to the board for their thought going into that building. I mean, it is a state-of-the-art place, and we've got programs now out in the other schools, and it's neat. It's a jewel for the city.
Absolutely. And I guarantee when they've got enough data, under their belt to see the impact of what pre-K does and things, I got to say, I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised in seeing things like test scores and all the things we use to measure progress for children. I think we're going to see all those numbers go up because of pre-K, and when these kids are starting it, like you said, at 3 years old, they're now starting that education process, and to me, that's when you get them. Yeah. I mean, we get kind of dumb as we get older. When they're 3, 4, 5, I mean, they're just sponges, and they absorb everything, and you're really giving your child a leg up advantage there by starting them in that process at that age.
Well, in the addition of the staff and they're continuing in their qualifications and their certifications, it just goes to reinforce what we're going to be able to do with that. So moved into some information items, and we had some pretty big ones. We had a presentation / question and answer session from legal counsel. The census has happened, and we sent out an RFP for companies that will help us with our school board boundaries redistricting. Okay. We had an opportunity for some questions of him. We talked about the time frame and what's required by statute, and our attorney was able to answer the questions that the board had over that. Then a couple of the bigger ones, we did have a brief presentation by our construction manager. Nancy Lopez Elementary is coming up for construction, and we working with the architect team, they have put together a couple different proposals, and one of those proposals had the actual building. The first proposal has the building, the new building actually on the current site. Okay. Where it would stay there on Atkinson, with shifting some things around, but the building stays where it's at. Gotcha. Same piece of property. Yeah, same piece of property. And then as they were looking at the potential for maybe some alternate plans, one of the designs actually has another building, another Nancy Lopez building going up on the property that Mesa sits on. Okay. So you would have taken Nancy Lopez and moved it over adjacent to Mesa. It would not be inside Mesa. It would have been its own separate entity. Okay. Separated by fences. And
how would that impact busing and all that stuff?
Well, and that was part of the proposal and the plan therefore by the architect. And last night's was just I don't know how it was presented out in the public. Last night's was just, let's kind of get the conversation started. Sure.
This is what let's throw the ideas on the wall and see what we're looking at.
Right. And so it's been interesting. It has generated a decent amount of public comment. But like I said, I would encourage people that have thoughts on that to contact their board members or contact central office. And as we haven't decided anything. Sure. Again, this is just let's look at things and let's get the most bang for our buck.
Well, unlike jails, most people want schools in their backyard. So,
well,
but then again, maybe there isn't. It depends on the neighborhood too.
Well, and it's interesting. I mean, Roswell is a fairly community school oriented place. You go to other towns, and the third grade school is on this side of town, and the second grade school is here. And Roswell hasn't been like that. Roswell appreciates and wants neighborhood schools. Sure. And that's not lost here in this look. But again, it was more just.
Well, it's a balance. You got to balance. You got to balance need versus like, yeah, you want to do the neighborhood thing, but if the need doesn't really match that at that moment, then you got to act accordingly to make sure the need is taken care of.
Well, I think the biggest thing that I would like for people to get out of that is when we're done, regardless whether that's option A or B or whatever the option we choose, Nancy Lopez is going to have a new building.
Yeah.
And I think that we were, that some way, somehow that got lost in a public discussion board. And I was like, whoa, I don't know where that went.
Yeah.
But if and even on its current site, there is a plan for that one. And again, we're going to get information out. We're going to work with our board. So, I mean, we appreciate the feedback.
Well, and just from my perspective, I'm just glad that we're, this investment's coming in. When I first came to Roswell back in like around 2000, we were still much of in a retirement community state of mind there. And prior to me getting here, there wasn't a lot of money invested in our schools and things. We were a retirement community. We had more older folks and kids. That's changed. We now have a very growing, thriving, youthful community here, and we've had to play catch up for the last 20 years on some of this, and we're now at a place where we're good, but like you said, we got to keep maintaining, we got to keep adding, we got to keep growing here, and I guess what I'm saying is, I know there's disagreements on who goes where and what and how this, but just the mere fact that we're seeing growth, we're seeing investments back into these things is a whole lot better than what we were seeing 20, 25 years ago, 30 years ago.
I can't give my predecessors enough credit for the work that they've done and the thinking in the future about taking the district to where we are now. I mean, I am the benefactor of some phenomenal work done in front of me and laid out the groundwork for how it's to be done going forward. One of the things that I look at, Mesa is long overdue. Nancy Lopez is long overdue. And when it's all said and done, we're going to have an opportunity for kiddos to go to, at some point, a brand new elementary school, and then, a mid-school that at that time will be, the newest mid-school in town, obviously, and what a neat opportunity that is.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of places can't say that unless the community is growing so fast and at a rate that, it's a little unheard of.
Yeah.
So for a community that has the stability that we've got in different areas of town, to be able to say that's so awesome. And then it goes back to our oil and gas industry, our taxpayers. I mean, and it is a true feather in their cap.
Yeah.
So a huge thank you to them.
Yeah. Although, since we had the Leadership Roswell candidate forum last Tuesday, and it was RISD was kind enough to host it at the Pueblo Auditorium there, but me going there and setting it up, it reminded me again every time I go into that building, because I don't go in there obviously as often as you do, but because it's an old school for folks who didn't know. It was it was the school, I think, at one point for Roswell, and I'm not gonna lie, I walk around those halls and everything, and I get nostalgic, like because that's school to me. Like when I go to school, I look in there and you see the lockers, see the halls and the and the classrooms, and I'm like, okay, now this is what a school looks like to me. You know what I mean? And so every time I look at that, I'm like, could they ever even turn this back into a school again? Because to me, I almost think it'd be cool to go to school in that, almost like a vintage. Because it's old stuff, but it's still in good shape and it's pretty, and so it's almost like a walk through time sometimes when you walk through those halls of that building. And I know it'll never be because it's the admin building and all that, but it'd be. I ain't gonna lie, I would, if I was a kid, I'd probably want to take some classes in that building just for nostalgia purposes.
I tell you what, when you like you said, if you walk through that building and then you like, again, I'll go back to Parkview, and you walk over there, or you go into one of our newer elementary schools, it's a huge difference.
It's night and day.
It is.
I'll go to my wife's
day.
classroom at Berendo, and that school got completely remodeled. About 6-8 years ago, something like that. And it's night and day different now. It looks like a modern school in there, Like for me, and my education knowledge now is my wife, so everything. So, and my own experience is going through school, and just the whole kindergarten
Yes.
complex over there. It's state of the art. Like I'm like, man, this is. I mean, they really they're because of kindergartners and playing on. They've got their own facilities and their own. And in essence, the kindergarten could in essence be its own bubble in there and not participate in the rest of the school and have all their amenities and all of their needs right there in that one wing of the school like that. And that's kind of a conceptual thing, but they've done an amazing job. And yes, so it's night and day. You go in the Pueblo, but I don't know. You go and you see all I picture is the old janitor with the giant buffer going through the hallways. And it just looks, the lighting even, it's so remnant. Like it's Welcome Back Kotter-esque.
I tell you what, if you really want to get interesting with it, be in that particular part of the building at night.
Yeah.
Come in there when it's dark in there, and it has a whole unique set of perspective to it.
I have been like when we're tearing down everything and everyone's gone home after the event. Yeah, I could see where you're like, ooh. But you know what? If you ever get a chance, go. If obviously you have a need, but if you ever have a need, go visit the admin building. It's a pretty cool facility over there. Yeah,
we've actually had some people that have come in to look. Because they've heard stories or
I wonder if there's like historical landmark type stuff in that building that you could even qualify that kind of stuff.
I don't know. I know anytime we get ready to do something like in the building or to the building, it's a pretty good undertaking just because we don't have even some of the updates that are required to be able to do the new updates that we need. When you start running technology, I mean, like Del Norte Elementary School. When they were working over there and getting it done, I mean, some of their cables and their lines that they were running through there, I couldn't put my arms around. Yeah. I mean, you're talking feet.
When it talks to internet and all that stuff, there's a whole lot of technology that was never thought of when that building is that you have to incorporate today. So I would imagine to even get a building like that to be able to handle, you almost have to level it or gut it hardcore to get it up to having all the, like you said, the fiber and the modern, electrical and computer stuff you need out there.
Right. So I would just say, let's be clear. We're just talking about how cool the building is. We are not insinuating.
Right.
That's where we're going with that.
But nothing happening. You're right. I'm sorry. I got.
No, you're good.
We're talking about that building, and it's just, I don't know. We got reminiscent.
No. It's I think
it's a cool building to walk around.
As we look forward, it does serve the purpose that we use it for, which is for our admin complex.
Like, I just hope, like, if their stuff gets replaced, I'm wondering if, like, should we call the historical society?
All right.
Take a look at maybe some of these furniture, some of the amenities here. That's things that you can't get anymore. It's pretty cool.
Oh no, and like you said, it's a treasure by itself.
Well, and this is something to be said about they don't make them like they used to. Like if you used like, and I'm not trying to talk about new build, but I'm just saying the way new construction is and everything else. Like, do you think we're going to have buildings like that 50 years down the road and 60 years down the road? And I don't know if we will, because it's just the way it was done differently, So anyway, I got sidetracked here. We should move on.
You're good. All right.
What's next on the agenda?
We had a 90-day presentation by Valley View Elementary School team. They came in, talked about what they were doing, went over a little bit of their test data, how they're working within their site to make things better at their school. And then I think one of the bigger ones that we had the last two that were fairly big with us was the multi-level systems of support, or MLSS.
Okay.
And Miss Cole and her team did a phenomenal presentation, kind of lengthy, but there's a lot that goes to that. And they walked through the process of what's expected of the teachers, what's expected of the staff, the support staff, the diagnosticians and the counselors and the principals, and kind of laid it all out as far as that came out a few years ago, and we really haven't had a chance to educate, and they did a really good job with that. Talked about some of our discipline that we're seeing in the schools right now, some of the challenges that we're facing, how we're looking to address that, and again, staying in compliance with what the state's looking for, and then working through some just best practices, and trying to keep our kids engaged and keep them in school.
Sure.
We did have a mid-year data assessment presentation by Mr. Bewley. who is in charge of that for our district, and we're seeing growth. And so we get done with all of this, and that really took about 2.5 hours. Just that chunk of that presentation right there, and I took an opportunity just to express to the board, if you don't take anything away from last night's meeting, it's that work's being done.
Yeah.
And we're not perfect, and we're not claiming to be perfect, and we have challenges. But
we're moving forward.
Our teachers are working hard. Our kids are working hard. Our parents are working hard. I mean, the boat's starting to turn a little bit. I
Sure.
mean, and you hate to continue to use we didn't start this nonsense kind of a mantra,
Right.
but we didn't. And we've been challenged with some pretty big tasks, and the data is showing that we're getting there.
Sure.
We took the opportunity to give some assessments that maybe some other districts didn't. And it wasn't, oh, great, you're going to judge me as a teacher on a test that my kids are taking. It's, I owe the people that pay our salaries an explanation as to where we're at. And that doesn't always necessarily mean that we're going to be in a good spot.
Sure.
But we want to make sure that we can tell people just where we're at.
Right.
And this is where we're strong, and this is where we're weak. And then it's our job to figure out how to continue with the strength and pick up the places that we're weak at.
Well, it's just how it works. You can't get better at something unless you know where your deficiencies are.
Correct.
And I know, because, and let's face it, the court of public opinion is very strong and very unforgiving, and so but also kind of, and I hate to say it this way, but don't know all the facts. You know what I mean? They don't understand all the details here. So like you're saying here, we're constantly moving forward. You've been handed variables here. Like them, hate them, love them. These are the variables.
Right.
And like we said at the beginning here, there was no playbook at the beginning. We're now got a couple years under our belt. We're getting more experience. And like you said, we're starting to see the fruits of that labor. We're starting to see where, and like you said, we're not at new normals and things like that, but we're starting to figure out a way to do this where maybe instead of seeing it get more intense as far as the workload, how we do things, and how we might see it to where now we're getting a little bit more efficient and finding better ways to do the same work that's not as time-consuming or as complicated as the system was before, because it was implemented out of need more so than out of was it thought through all the way.
Right.
And now we're getting where we can think through these and then act accordingly. Is that am I kind of close there on what you're saying?
Yeah, and when you start with that, I mean, you can make data say whatever you want it to say.
Sure.
And you can take and you can be shooting for a proficiency level, really at anything, even in any business. And as an employer or supervisor, you can use it to motivate. You can use it for consequences. But the biggest thing that I'm looking at right now is our growth. And establishing a set of norms of what does a third grade student look like at this time, what does, and then roll through the grades, and then look at what our expectations are from the state, and then see what we need to do to meet those expectations.
Sure.
But I cannot overemphasize enough the positive nature of not continuing to be where you were. And that's one of the things that one of our programs actually will tell us, that there's a predictor factor in this program that will say if the growth continues at the rate that the growth's continuing at, you're going to be here. And the signs are very good for us. And I'm looking forward to championing that with the state. I mean, some of that we didn't have to do.
Right.
And again, I feel like I don't have the problem being held accountable for the money that's put in to us.
Sure.
We owe people that, and I don't take that lightly.
We're running short on time, and is there much more from the meeting we need to?
No, really, that was the crux of the meeting. We approved some other stuff, but it was just housekeeping.
I did want to ask a quick question here, since we are in the midst of the legislative session right now. As far as what's going on in Santa Fe, is there anything that yourself or the board's kind of keeping an eye on right now, or anything on the radar there that you guys are watching closely?
Yes. And I tell you, it's interesting because this has been my first go around with having to, I always kind of paid attention, but I never did really pay attention. And it's
now you got a new perspective a little bit.
Oh boy, do I? And the I if this has been a short session, I hate to think what a long one feels like, because it's been a roller coaster. I mean, you'll get updates on this, and 2 days later it changes. And so one of the things we're looking at is we've got a couple that we're kind of keeping our eye on. The teacher salary increase is one. And what we've adopted this theory with that is, we're going to let them decide what they want to do.
Sure.
In Santa Fe, because it has changed so many different ways, so many different times, even in a 24-hour period.
Well, and then we
go out there.
If I remember right, in all fairness, it's been a while since teachers got decent pay raises and things, and because just for my own wife, and we got a recent one this past year or so,
yes.
and I think it's probably one of the biggest ones my wife has seen in her 25-year career.
And that's,
so it's kind of long overdue on some of these things.
It is.
Saying.
And we were pretty fortunate last year that we were able to step out and do that without it being mandated, and pay our teachers. And what we're waiting on to see is, okay, so what happens for some of those districts like us that might be in the spots that you're after. And that's the language that we're waiting on is, okay, so then what do we need to be doing to make this right across the board for us?
Just out of curiosity, and this may be too long of an answer to get here, but does that, I mean, obviously more money is a good thing and all that, but when they do some of this stuff, does it make the competition to get teachers difficult for you guys or does that come into play at all? Because obviously you're competing against the other districts on trying to get the best teachers to come here. Does that mess with that balance a little bit?
It can.
Yeah.
For years we have been told that Carlsbad and how much more Carlsbad paid their teachers, and it was competitive, and they're going to go down there, and we would lose some to Carlsbad, and we were kind of curious to see if we would actually get some from them due to the fact that we had finally exceeded their pay,
right?
And then this happens, and so but it does. I mean, they're this particular bracket of employee is a little more mobile than what our parents were.
Sure,
they got a job, they stayed with the job, they were fairly loyal to the company, and they never left. And that's not, and it's not a slam or a put down.
It's just the way the world's a little different now.
It's a different mindset, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and that's life in general. And I mean, think about it. How many people bought houses, and that was the house you grew up in, you live in. Now, people live in 10, 12 houses before they get the one that maybe they retire in or settle in or something like that. And everything in life's like that. You buy I don't know, my parents bought a car and we'd own it for 10 years. Now you buy a car and sometimes it's gone before you paid the thing off.
I understand. Yes, sir.
So I think it's just a different world we live in, It's just kind of, but anyway, as always, appreciate the visit.
Absolutely.
Is there anything we want to make sure we got out there that we just skipped or sidetracked or got?
I don't think so. Like I said, there was a lot of information in the meeting last night, and it is still online.
I was about to say, you can go to the RISD website and go back and check it out at your leisure. There's the archive of there. It's the link to the YouTube channel is what it is, and you can go back and see a couple years worth of school board meetings if you want to, and check all that out and do all that there. And then, of course, those meetings are always open to the public, too. So they generally take place the second Tuesday of the month. 6 p.m. Is that when they get underway? 6 p.m. at the RISD, the chambers there. And then public's more than welcome to be part of that. So very good. Well, thank you, Brian, as always. Appreciate the visit, and anything we can do to help out, or if we need to get you or any of the school board members want to come on and talk about something, we'd love to have them.
Awesome. I'll pass that along.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
And go. I don't know. Now I got to ask. Where's the superintendent go for school lunch? Like if you had where do you poop? Like who do you peek into? I'm curious.
I'm gonna go. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just lunch.
I I can't. Which I would only offend the other 19 schools if I said I'm going to go to one. So,
well, in all fairness, they probably pretty much because it's a system and they go through.
It's about the same.
But
I
you never
just
know.
roll into the primary kitchen over at Goddard or Roswell High and just grab a plate.
Yeah, that works. It's kind of like Loveless Hospital because they have such good food at there.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have no need to go to the hospital. I just want a burrito. Thank you, Brian. We
All
appreciate
right, have a good
it. It's 8:55.